Okay, guys, welcome to this little excerpt from our lives. Is that too deep to start off with?
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, guys, welcome to the show. We are two men in a room. That's the new name of the show.
Two men in a room.
Two men in a room. Don't Google that. Anyways, I kind of wanted to get together with my pal Lee here and discuss maybe some gripes, maybe clear the air, maybe kind of just talk a little openly about life abroad, or kind of being an expat, kind of representing your country. And I guess to start off, I'd say that when you're traveling abroad, you know, people, the first question they ask is,
Where you from?
right, and then you say, oh, I'm from the States, or
The UK is what I would say.
The UK. And then depending on how many drinks have been drank throughout the night, kind of the response you get is kind of based on that, I would say.
Yeah.
So if you're at work and you're just meeting somebody for the first time, maybe it's like, oh, you're from the States, cool, okay,
I
cool.
find people feign like they know something. Like, oh, you're from blah. I know but blah.
You're from Delaware, yeah.
Oh, Delaware. They make that thing, right?
Delaware, they got that good Delaware sandwich that they make.
World famous.
Right. But I guess what I want this kind of little mini episode to be is kind of about just your own experience through your eyes or through your country's eyes in a different place, you know, away from home, away from family and friends and comfort. And I guess my gripe, or my first thing that I would say, is that I hear a lot that America has no culture, which I can understand. But you usually hear that from somebody who's never been to America. That's like a common thing for non-American. Canadians don't really say that because a lot of them have been to America, or they're kind of in the same boat, right?
Yeah.
But what do you think?
I mean, I've definitely heard it before.
And this is kind of like in our shows where we have guests, we kind of make flippant comments, or really just kind of disparaging comments, but they're kind of in jest, you know. It's kind of for shits and giggles, and it's really off the cuff, or it's just a stereotype. But today it was kind of like I wanted to just kind of talk about maybe the more reality of the situation, I guess. But what do you think? Does America have culture?
I think what people are thrown by is the exact opposite. Is that you have so much culture of everything, right? It's the modern melting pot of the world. So you have everything in one, that you don't have a distinct, unique culture to yourself. You have everyone else's culture a part of you.
That's very true.
And then within that, you've adapted some things to your own. So, like, Christmas wasn't invented in America, but the Christmas way of celebrating, the American way of celebrating Christmas is very different to more of a traditional way from the UK or anywhere else in Europe.
So essentially, it's like if it's everything, it's nothing.
Oh yeah, I can see how people would be confused to how you don't have a culture, but they are just wrong. It's everything is a culture, even if you don't agree with it.
Right, and it's like America's a baby. It's like making fun of a toddler for not knowing theoretical physics. But
the problem is, like, it's not that it's America is so young, because, like, if you have two parents, you have a, let's say, random Mexican and Japanese, okay? You have a Mexican father and a Japanese mother, and they have a baby. You don't then say the baby has no culture just because it's not the same as the parents it was.
Right, it's a mixture.
It has both of the cultures.
So
right?
it's a mixed toddler.
Exactly.
That you're bitching about him not knowing theoretical physics, but this mixed toddler also made rock and roll and airplanes.
Yeah.
So it's
I think that is a defense that Americans use a lot, though. They often, when people will claim something about American culture, they'll go to the history of Americans creating stuff.
Right, which is our culture. Creativity,
I mean,
optimism.
it's definitely a part of American culture. Yeah,
I wouldn't say it's our like.
it's not the best defense of something.
Right, but it's something that shows that we contributed to the world in our short history.
Yeah, and you have that idea, that sense of, you want something, make it.
And that's what I think. If I had to think of what is American culture, I would say it's eternal optimism and creativity. Those two things.
There was a thing. This is a couple of years old now, but there was a law about inheritance. Some kind of tax on winning the lottery, and there was a debate in America. Should there be a tax on like winning a large sum of money? And people didn't want that because deep down, I think most Americans feel, yeah, I'll win the lottery someday. Yeah, that could happen.
Totally optimistic.
So they don't want that tax just in case they have it at some point. Because
and we inherently dislike our government.
Oh, that's also true. Yeah.
And that's another thing, like that's another kind of segues into another gripe where people are like, oh, America's full of jingoistic nationalists who love America, love the flag, all this stuff. And yeah, that's true. A lot of people are jingoistic and nationalist, and
I like that word, jingoistic.
A little too over the top, some people. And but those same people also live in America and know their distaste for America as well. Is that a dichotomy?
It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's a love-hate.
Yeah.
It's like
you defend yourself, but then also stab yourself.
Right. It's like something that you love and you hate, or something that's good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
John Lennon.
Yeah.
Gave the world some beautiful music. Wasn't the greatest guy, maybe.
Not really, no.
But it's you got to separate the art and the artist. But who's the artist of America? Okay, bad analogy.
No, but I see what you mean. Like, there's a big distrust of the government, but then also everyone will defend the government at some point.
Not so much
well.
defend the government, I'd say defend the people.
Yeah.
So there's the American government in that kind of big blanket thing, and then there's the people. So it's like, it's easy to judge when you're living abroad and you see all the worst shit on the news, and then you haven't stepped foot in the actual country. Yeah. Just like China,
That's
right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. China is what people see on the news is not what we experience day to day, right? It's not the same thing at all. Going to the shop here is like going to the shop anywhere.
Myself, before I came to China, I was like, oh, communism, Red Scare.
Right.
And yes, China does have obvious communist ties and what have you, but it's also a very capitalist and very laissez-faire society.
Yeah.
America kind of shot to stardom, not stardom, but popularity within the past 100 years. We're only about 280 years old, but about 100 of that is just recent kind of becoming a superpower.
Yeah, I'd say from definitely 1900s, but then obviously you had the Depression for some of that as well. So I would say definitely from the 40s.
Yeah. Early 1900s, we were just kind of coming into our own a little bit.
You were a power at that point, but then you lost some of that power in the 30s.
But it's like America's kind of this. It's in this area where history and media have intertwined to where, like, for example, the UK, when they were having their heyday, it was in people's newspapers, but it wasn't splattered on the internet, or it wasn't so in your face. Like, this happened in the UK today, or they took over this place today, or there was a...
But I think that's why, like... It's
under the microscope.
Yeah, it's like a soft power instead of the hard power. Like, we slowly crept up because there was no focus on everything. We would just...
It wasn't a blitzkrieg.
Exactly. Like, We slowly took over the world, and
in a time where media was not exactly.
well, in the time when there was media, but it was all state-owned
It was
media anyway.
it was a kid on the street yelling at people to
but
grab
who's
a paper.
printing that newspaper? It's printed by the people that wanted it printed, right? I mean, as it is still today, but then even more so than when there was only one newspaper, right? The thing that surprises me is that the UK still gets like forgiven almost for everything it did. Like, we did shit everywhere. We invented the concentration camp and gas chambers. Like, we invented the worst things in the world pretty much, and it never really gets spoken about. And lots of countries that were fucked by the UK kind of like the UK now. Like, I would say an average Chinese person would like a British person over an American person, regardless of the fact that we got them addicted to opium twice and took Hong Kong.
You guys had a hell of a publicist, I guess, in the past 100 years or so.
I think it is just the grace of time that has allowed it to happen. And then our stereotypes now are generally quite favorable. Oh, they're all gentlemen with umbrellas. Like, that's basically what we've got going for us.
And back to the culture thing, America is... like I said, that people who haven't stepped foot in America, they say they have no culture. But if you go to a small town in eastern kind of seaboard, Appalachia or some kind of mountain area, and then you go to a small town in New Mexico, you're going to experience totally different everything.
Yeah.
And that may be food, that may be how people talk, it may be how...
Definitely how they talk.
Definitely how they talk, but it's like we haven't had time to kind of homogenize culture, like, per se.
Exactly. I mean, like, the UK is no different in the aspect. It just took a lot longer for it to happen. Or it happened so much longer ago that it's just the norm now.
Right.
We took from every other culture around us at that time. That's why half our language is French, Greek, German. It's because we just stole everything from that culture, right?
So in the end, the world is becoming smaller, slowly becoming smaller. And the UK was... they made the world smaller, not first. Obviously, what was the Romans before that? Or
yeah, the Romans had
some
the
big
empire.
power.
There were quite a few, like...
But that was mainly
empires.
Europe, right?
Yeah.
The Eurasian continent. Whereas
the Mongols.
Whereas
quite
UK, they really branched out because of the Navy, right?
Yeah, but then you also have to think about how the different empires did it. Mongols, the Romans, and a bunch of others, they took over places, but they didn't try to change them. They didn't try and force their language on them.
What's that called again?
Colonialism?
Colonialism, yes. I was trying to
So
think of it.
the UK did that. They went somewhere, they took the Bible, they took their language.
They wanted them to assimilate.
Exactly.
Assimilation.
The Romans were much... like more forgiving with the people. Yeah, they took slaves. I'm not trying to defend the Romans, but they weren't forcing people to speak Latin. They weren't forcing people to, like, they just did.
They're just give us some resources.
Give us some land, give us some, like,
spice.
gold, and yeah, we own you on paper, but that's pretty much it. Whereas, like, Britain was like, we needed places for war, for resources, and we gave them the Bible and our language.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much
and
it.
there's kind of two ways you can approach I keep saying America, I mean the United States. I don't know what's the proper term in 2019. I know some people get offended if you say America. They're like, well, what is that? South America, North America? But people know, right?
I think so.
You know.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? So if you talk to there's kind of two ways you could that I've seen it come. One comes from bitterness and one comes from kind of curiosity. So some people will say, well, oh, Americans are arrogant and blah blah blah, and some people will say, oh, what was your childhood like, or they try to know the person instead of the country. And some people try to paint you with the broad brush of your country instead of looking at you as an individual.
Well, that's literally racism. That's literally just describing racism.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not gonna quote all Americans with that, but I will find a lot of Americans, because of possibly the culture of America, are bred to. I mean, you have the idea that America is the best country in the world. A lot of Americans,
right, that goes
truly
back to
believe
the
that.
jingoism.
Yeah.
And In some ways, yeah,
And
it
I've
totally
heard
is the best.
I've heard Americans say that within China to other foreigners from different countries.
And it's a difference between saying like America, fuck yeah, and actually thinking like we are better because this, when you haven't contributed anything to that idea. But it's okay to think. It's okay to be a little nationalistic. Like if the U.S. soccer team is playing, hell yeah, like go America. If it's July 4th, go America. But a lot of people, it's like back to what I said, it's love hate. It's like we love the States, we love our.
It's just acknowledging yourself, I think.
Yeah, and we also acknowledge that yes, our government has done some really messed up stuff, and obviously we don't agree with it, but don't kind of see us as our government. See us as a person.
I would find, though obviously there will be exceptions to this, but I would say a lot of people in the UK would never say that the UK is the best country in the world. I think we're a lot more self-deprecating than that. So we're definitely gonna do.
Well, I'd say it was.
Well, maybe, yeah, maybe.
Like, but it depends on in terms of what, you know. So is America the best country in the world in terms of modern day imperialism and fighting wars and military industrial complex? Yeah, obviously.
I mean,
there's
you
nobody.
could say,
There's nobody that even comes close to that.
I don't know if you would say that's good, though. I would say,
Right. That's what I'm saying.
You could
I'm
possibly
saying
be
it,
the worst.
No, I'm saying it. I'm saying that in terms of nation building and being a force of imperialist kind of tendencies, I don't think that's good. I think our foreign policy is terrible. I think we should put our resources into our own economy, into our own people, into our own education and sciences, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Get out of other countries. It's fine to have a good military. Fine, spend some money on the military, but not all of it.
Yeah. I was very surprised to see statistically where America was in the medicine world, like how high it was in the medical resources and everything like that. Because surprisingly pretty low against a lot of other European and other countries. But you have some of the best hospitals in the world, some of the best doctors, right?
Right. That's the other dichotomy thing. It's like, no, we don't have free health care. Yes, we do have great hospitals. Who is getting that care?
But also, like, you also still have a high...
and if you have a good job in America, you get insurance. If you don't have a good job in America for whatever reason, you don't have insurance.
You still have a high child mortality rate and things like that, which are really absurd considering how developed
and
it
education
is.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, if we put as much resources into building our own country, that's a lot of money. If you not to get too political, but if you spend more money at home, you're going to see better results. If you spend more money fighting wars in the desert, you're going to see less results at home and more PTSD, etc.
Yeah, you just cause more problems. But yeah, this is not a political segment today. I don't
want to get political. I'm just saying culturally or kind of this.
But then again, it is a cultural thing of America. Like your military, you were bred in war,
and that's, if you look at history,
you were birthed in war.
If you look at history, all of the greatest powers of their time were warlike people, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't the peaceful guys who were making all the money and colonizing.
Colonializing.
Sorry.
That's when you take someone's colon.
I had a colonialoscopy. But back. Okay, let's stick with history.
So, like, lots of countries have wars all the time, and that's how they develop and everything. But, like, the U.S. was literally fighting for independence and then fighting itself.
And
I think there's a statistic that you've been in a war every year since you were founded or something like that, like somewhere. Like
a lot of wars, yeah. Well, definitely. I'm trying to think.
I would say a good 85% at least of your history
a lot
is in war, right?
Yeah.
Not just minor conflicts as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I
And-
mean, so it is a part of your culture.
And that's but nowadays England and America are kind of, they were in the, at least in recent history, they were kind of in cahoots, you know, in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Yeah, George W. Bush, Tony Blair.
Tony Blair.
Yeah.
Let's stay away from that though.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. Let's go back to history. So a lot of what would you say is the relationship with kind of your constituency in the UK? Do they see America as like the Yanks that disbanded and like ran away from the motherland, or is it like whatever?
There are jokes about it.
Right. So it's
But
a lot of it's in jest.
Yeah. It's. I don't think anyone actually takes it seriously when they. July 4th is a big festival.
Maybe some older people.
No, because I mean it's what 280. No one's alive from that
Right,
time. so
right. But
it's
there
not-
is. I sense a bit of bitterness sometimes from some Brits, not all, some.
Yeah, but I think it's more of a competition thing more than they want to be in control of America.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just maybe they're not so secure with themselves or with their idea of the UK that they put that on to the USA. I honestly don't know any Americans. We joke about it when Donald Trump got elected. People were like the Queen's declaring the USA as a part of the UK again. Like jokes like that. But there's no one is taking it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
July 4th is big for you guys. And through pop culture, we see it on TV and stuff like that. So we will get on social media and make jokes about it at that time. But nobody, I personally don't know anybody who takes that seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone I know loves American things, like Hollywood, right? Who doesn't like a good Hollywood movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
No America, no Hollywood.
And if people think that a Hollywood movie that's like in America, set in America, is America, it's like too far, you know? Like it's a they're playing it up, like
Of course.
whichever scenario the movie is about.
Well,
it's
some-
Hollywood. Yeah.
I mean, some movies are very realistic, I would say, but then
and some
there's
are
that realism. Like Mary Poppins is not a good representation of the UK. It's the same.
more like
Come on, make the joke. Do something funny.
fuck. The Scottish movie where they do heroin.
Oh, Trainspotting.
Trainspotting. Yeah, they're all addicts. No, that was
That's
bad.
not far from the truth.
Rewind.
That's really not far from the truth.
But I guess what I wanted to say, I just wanted to kind of clear the air and say, you know, America is...
He loves America, okay? That's what he's saying.
I do love America, but I do like to make fun of America.
But that's...
I don't know
it's
if you
important.
love America. I know you like to make fun of it, but you're not like... It's not from a evil or
No.
bad place. It's more of a... Hey, it's a stereotype. We're
Yeah.
just trying to fuck around and make a joke.
I've never been to America, so it would be hard to say I love or hate it. But I feel that
You've
everything...
met plenty of
Yeah.
Americans.
I feel anything can be made fun of, regardless of your experience with it. Your experience allows you to be able to know more and make fun of it. But I would joke about any country.
Right.
Yeah.
And same thing, I make fun of England all the time, but I have a great appreciation for England. I think it's another historical thing. Like, you guys have so much history, and I think that's really cool. Like, from everything from Shakespeare to the whatever Vandals sacking, or you getting your language from whatever place it came from, right? It's an amalgamation of different...
Yeah.
You guys were the melting pot before the melting pots were cool.
We made the first melting pot.
Right.
Before us, it was just twigs.
Do you hear anything about England in your travels, or some kind of bitterness from Americans or other people?
I would say if anyone is ever bitter about the UK, it is Americans.
Mm-hmm.
I never...
Is it more of like rub it in your face, like, oh, we won, or...
Yeah, no, that's a part of it. They
But
love-
are they joking or are they serious?
I think some are definitely joking, of course, but some are.
I've probably said it jokingly.
Some love to say, "Oh, we're independent," and then making jokes about throwing tea into the sea and stuff. Like, yeah, some are joking,
And
but some aren't.
That is not unfortunately, but that is just a part of our culture.
Yeah.
That's been we're like I said, we're only a few hundred years old, so it's like
It's
our
somehow-
grandfather's father's father told, like we've
Somehow you're sole winners. That's the thing. You won, and you're still bitter about it.
I wouldn't say bitter, but definitely. I think it again goes back to jest.
I've got
I
an
think
interesting
I think
theory
it's
for
for fun.
I heard this theory from some historians that they believe that if America waited, like Canada and some other colonies of the UK, if they waited and didn't fight for their independence and just given their independence later, like Canada was, there would have been no civil war, which was the greatest loss of American lives. Do you think that's possible? That if you guys didn't get independence, didn't win that independence war, you just waited for independence, there would have been no civil war later? Because we stopped slavery in most of our colonies because they were forced to follow our rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously slavery was the reason for the Civil War.
Right,
States'
and a lot
rights.
of people say states' rights.
But it's states' rights to own slaves.
Right.
So, again, not trying to get too political, but
Mhm.
do you think there's any credence to that kind of theory? I've just seen this online. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but if I just don't think there would have ever been a time where we had it in, my ancestors had it in their blood to
not-
resign,
Okay,
or
just to give up and
to
wait.
fold. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was always gonna end in, no, this is us.
Yeah.
We don't want a king, basically.
Okay.
I don't want to get into the Civil War or states' rights or slavery. That just is what it is. Read up on that if you don't know. But so is there anything else you want to touch on? for
British
this?
people don't drink warm beer. Just to throw that out there.
Is that a thing?
I've
I've heard Guinness is supposed to be drinking at room temperature.
Did you say drinking?
I said drankin'. Did I say drankin'?
Drinkin's
Let's
also
run
a
that
better
back.
word.
Drank. Sorry, I'm a little drunken.
If you ever drink something in the UK and it's
Just Guinness. I
from
mean.
draft, it's from a keg, it's going to be chilled, it's going to be cold. Guinness included.
I wouldn't.
I've heard
I've
this
never
from
heard that.
Americans.
I've never heard that.
Some Americans have asked me or declared to me, because Americans don't ask me things.
They declared.
They just tell me,
They made a declaration.
You do this. Like,
We love making declarations.
but no, we don't drink warm beer. We drink a lot of lager, and it's cold. We have lots of bitter and ale, and that's also chilled. Guinness, also chilled. If it's in a bottle or can, it'll be refrigerated. Nothing's warm.
So don't be afraid to go
Room,
get a.
room temperature red wine. That's the only thing you'll find at room temperature.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
normal.
All right. This is.
You got really serious with yours, and I'm just like, we don't like warm beer.
I didn't want to get serious. I kind of wanted to set the record straight because I know that people sometimes they read in too much to flippant comments.
That's true. Yeah.
And I just kind of wanted to say, like, I don't hate America. I actually love America. I hate the government. It's a love-hate. I already said it before. Let's wrap it up. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Peace.